Speaking moistly, keep 2 meters apart. Speaking moistly.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday afternoon and Speaking Moistly with me, as usual. Greg, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. I am actually drinking caffeinated coffee today, so I might be a
Holy
little
smoke.
off the wall.
I
Yeah,
can
it's
tell.
happened. It's
You were
happened.
animated. You were animated. I'm going to not get any more coffee alternatives in my ads due to our conversations about what you could possibly replace coffee with.
Just the good stuff, the pure stuff, just the
Yeah, buddy.
fully caffeinated
Roasted coffee
That's
beans.
right. I
You can buy
missed it.
coffee beans at CanadaPoly.com. Just in case you're interested.
There you
That
go.
wasn't even planned, but you got to
Get over
It came
there.
up organically, like the
Yeah.
beans. Um,
Well
I'm
done,
sure the shipping
sir.
costs are going to be the shipping's just been terrible though. The shipping has just been really high. Anyway, regardless, there's so many things going on. It's hard to keep up. First things first, do you remember when NFL Monday Night Superstar had that heart attack on the field? Ever seen anything like that before? You remember? Yeah.
Do we talk about this last week?
We talked
of
about it.
course.
Yeah, you remember,
Yeah.
right? Like,
I of course I saw it. Yeah. It's and everyone's saying, how dare you try to politicize this? And which I think is total BS to say that, because it's like,
yep.
I'm pretty sure deaths were politicized hardcore for the past 3 years. Every time someone got sick, actually, that was politicized.
If you got sick and died within 28 days of a COVID test, that was the COVID death, baby. Like,
yeah, so, exactly. So
politicizing death. That's so 2020.
Well, it pisses me off because there's a lot of like more conservative people on the right saying that.
Yeah.
And it's just a real sort of we don't know how to argue against the establishment properly. Like, people are just so terrified of the establishment. And it's like,
man,
guys, like us winning, us making a good move is them whining and saying that we're being mean. Like, that's the entry point of us entering the ring, is when people say you're being mean. It's like, okay, good. Well, I guess I'm doing something right.
It's true, but I don't want to lose focus of the point I'm trying to make. We saw Hamlin, who's a super healthy guy, by all accounts, prior to Monday Night Football that night, go down with a cardiac thing that probably shouldn't have taken down a player, but blah, blah, blah. And then immediately right away, the NFL releases a statement that says, get vaccinated. Don't forget to get boosted. We're pretty sure this doesn't have anything to do with the vaccine. And if you think that it has something to do with the vaccine, you're probably a racist. I don't think they said that. That's paraphrasing, but you know.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, they released a doc. I
didn't hear about that part.
Yeah,
I didn't hear about that.
They did.
My gosh.
They were talking about how dangerous misinformation can be, and so on and so forth. There were a whole bunch of newspapers that were talking about how Hamlin's unfortunate situation is being hijacked by anti-vaxxers, evil anti-vaxxers, right? And so fast forward to the other day, and 2 days ago, I think it was Kian Bext, he was the first person I saw reporting it, said, holy cow, this just happened on live TV in Canada. And it was Jessica Robb, right? And she was having medical distress, and she threw back to the studio, and somebody somewhere took over and said, don't worry, we're going to make sure that she's okay. And then today, did you see the
same message came out? Did you see the message? Like, hey, don't worry about it. We assure you it had nothing to do with the thing that you think it might have to do about.
This obvious classic case of winter vagina.
Don't connect these dots, people. Do not connect these dots. It's very important that you don't connect those dots. Actually, the fact that you even thought about connecting those dots, huge problem. Okay,
that's a problem.
No more dot connecting allowed.
Yeah.
I don't know, for those who might know the Ferryman's Toll. He's actually become a very prolific memester out of Diagolon. He had his memes actually shared by Donald Trump Jr.
Oh yeah, good for him. I saw his and he's rebranded to the Daily Toll. I like it. The rebranding is really good.
Well, it's just like another kind of brand he started.
Yeah, it's good for him. Good for him. He's doing well.
He basically said recently that this is like a template that he's going to use, which is experts unsure what is causing journalists to drop like athletes, but absolutely positive it's not what you think it is. He's used that same sort of like sentence many, many times. So we're unsure what's causing this, but we're positive it's not what you think it is.
Yep. Yeah. Who could know? And if you speculate, it's terrible. But the funny thing is, now if you wanted to go to a restaurant in 2020, it was okay to ask, or 2021, right?
Mhm.
September 2021, if you wanted to go to a restaurant, hold on, brother, what's your vaccine
And
status,
everyone
right?
would probably go, "Hey,
Yeah,
yeah,
bam. If you
yeah, take
wanted,
my, I got my thing."
if
Yeah.
you wanted healthcare, if you wanted a job, if you
Yep.
wanted access to see your relatives, oh, that's still happening, right? They say, hold on, buddy, what's your vax status? But if you have a medical emergency on camera and you've publicly told everybody and their dog through Twitter that you're triple vaxxed in April 22, which Jessica Robb did, now all of a sudden it's a private thing that we really shouldn't be talking about. And I don't want to share public or private medical information with the public, but it's definitely not the communication from CTV Edmonton. The last sentence in the whole thing is, it's not the vaccine. It's not the
Wow.
vaccine.
Are you serious? That's
Yeah,
crazy.
man.
So the tweet, or sorry, the meme that was getting shared around from the Ferryman's Toll, the one that was shared by Donald Trump Jr. goes, "My coworker just died suddenly." And then Chad character, "That's awful. Were they vaxxed?" "That's so inappropriate to ask." Dude, you wanted to know if I was vaxxed before you
Yeah,
let me into a fucking McDonald's.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
pretty
So it's a
funny.
little bit, it's a little bit hollow. It's a little bit shallow. This whole pearl clutching for the privacy of the afflicted superstar or on
It's
camera
just
personality.
it's on one hand it's like super disingenuous, but for a lot of people it's just, the indoctrination in action, right? Like, but they've been so well trained to be like, no, no, can't ask questions about that. That's bad. Like, the news tells me what my morality is, and today they told me that asking questions about this makes me a bad person, makes me racist to ask those
Unless we're told to ask
questions.
questions about it before people can access food or basic
Mhm.
services.
And
Um,
it's isn't, how creepy is it too, right? Because they're essentially completely inverting everything to the point where this person asking questions is evil. And meanwhile, the person who just forced this medical procedure on me, yeah, they're the good guys. They're the good guys, right?
they should be protected.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and all these clips are coming out, and there's only going to be more of them, of the kind of chronicling of the last 3 years of this person was saying yes, it's fine. This person's saying it's fine. This
Yeah.
person's saying, like, there was one about Dr. Campbell on YouTube. I don't know if you saw that
Oh,
one,
I
but
saw. I put that on my show today. Yeah, where it's a 2 minute. It's a 2 minute video clip of Campbell in 2020 saying, "I have confidence in this vaccine. This pandemic's not going to last forever. There is light on the other side. Everybody has to get vaccinated." And within a minute, and you
by
can
the
see the
end,
dates in the
he's like,
corner.
"Well,
He's yeah,
you live and learn. You
yeah.
live
He
and
says, "I'm
learn."
really sorry if I did any." Oh, I forgot to show that part on my show. But by the end, he says, "I'm really sorry if I caused any harm in 2020 when people believe me." I was like, "Jeepers creepers, man!" Like,
I mean, at least he's admitting
yeah,
that he's wrong, though, because I feel like a lot of people aren't even that, what's the word, aren't don't even have that
self
much
aware.
in, yeah, or in the integrity to do so.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think, like, the trajectory of Dr. Campbell is very similar to, do I want to say this, people of his age group? Because whenever I've pushed, people of the baby boomer generation on this,
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about specifically my parents. They've always responded with this sort of righteous faith in these prestigious institutions. We went to the moon, like this kind of, all of this sort of
Have you ever?
belief system about, science and these institutions and these industries and how they are so trustworthy. And this is a democracy. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
You know what I mean, though?
the
It's like
de- the
this sort of,
democracy.
yeah, this sort of boomer, sort of baby boomer pride in the way that things have been, and it's like it's crumbling,
There was
my
a
friend.
reason for that back when the baby boomers had that pride in like the 70s and 80s type deal,
Yeah,
because
because
the
it got
institutions that they built
it got them
were
to the
working.
shopping mall and
No,
encouraged them
no,
to
but
go to
the
the shopping mall.
institutions
Like,
that they
okay.
built, they thought it looked like they were working, but um, white collar crime, for lack of a better term, has taken over the structure of governance, and it's been made legal, and it's been
Mm,
called something else. And now they're saying, what's a really problematic thing? People discussing things on the internet. That's a really big problem. We've got to deal with that. Here's a law that
mhm.
outlaws it. So I mean, yeah, it's pretty scary where we're headed. from where we've been, from a country that was very free, I guess, to a country that is seemingly less free day by day, right? You can't talk about that because CTV says it has nothing to do with the vax. So can't talk about that. Yowza, that's scary.
I mean, certainly a lot has changed in the last 3 years. And then I guess it was kind of like a bunch of foreplay for the 4 years leading up to that, in terms of like the rise of cancel culture, the rise of
Yep.
the smartphone kind of news consumption that we've gotten used to. And, the technology has been so seductive to us as
It's
human beings.
slick.
Yeah, we're only humans, and it's all kind of happened at once. And I think a major part of it is that we haven't really questioned, we haven't really been seriously looking at how this technology has affected people over the past 6 or 7 years. And I think that's part of the equation, because people consume information so quickly and rapidly now. They quite literally create their political view on something as quickly as they like double tap on an Instagram post.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it kind of just, it almost accelerates ignorance, and accelerates laziness, and accelerates like a lot of traits that are just not like I don't want to say the worst of human nature, but um it's certainly an exciting time to be living in. What's the next topic, Mark? What's the next topic? I'm treading water here.
Jeepers creepers. Justin Trudeau. Well, I mean, we can talk about the Three Amigos conference. We can talk about the central bank in Canada posting the biggest losses ever, and then we haven't had an update on the next quarter. As far as I know.
Actually, sorry, can we talk? We talked about the Peterson thing last week, did we?
Did we talk about the Peterson thing?
I'm not sure.
I can't remember. I can pause it and find out, but we could talk about the Peterson thing again if you want.
Well, there's a protest tomorrow for Jordan Peterson outside of the College of Psychologists in downtown Toronto that I will be attending, most likely, and probably live streaming and talking to some people there.
Cool.
But yeah.
What are you expecting to see?
I'm expecting to see, I mean, Max Bernier is going to be there. Some doctors are going to be there, which I think is going to be kind of a little awkward for the doctors, especially because, and this is actually probably a question I'll ask those doctors. How does it feel to see, people, some members of the establishment, including Pierre Poilievre, stand up for Jordan Peterson and not stand up for you over the past couple of years, where you were getting persecuted by the College of Physicians of Ontario, and for quite frankly similar reasons, having an opinion that is not
approved
by the governmental or regulatory body.
Great question, dude.
Yeah.
Are you angling for a job in media? You could be the next Rachel Gilmore.
No, I don't.
I was kidding.
I don't want to. I want to. I don't want to sell my soul. So
indeed,
you're stay independent,
head and shoulders above Rachel Gilmore for a variety of reasons. But that's a really great question, honestly.
Okay, I don't really like being compared to fair
enough.
I was gonna say something mean and inappropriate, so I won't. I don't know. I just feel like journalists these days are like almost below paparazzi at this point.
It's hard to believe anything in the newspaper, honestly, because people like Rachel Gilmore, and even people who should be legit news people are going after the cheap clicks with clickbaity titles and nonsense, and not really great questions. And like, that's a great question. I would love to hear doctors answering that question genuinely. Like, man on the street is compelling content and always fun, right? So it's difficult to be so disappointed in our media landscape all the time, because there's nothing. I mean, like, it's a very difficult. Really, I mean, is
it difficult? I feel like that's just like the default setting is being disappointed.
I guess so, but there was a time when you'd get some really good questions, and you'd get some really interesting exchanges between journalists and people who are in charge. And I mean, like, this situation's a little bit different, but at this point, doctors are. if you're a doctor who's advocating for lockdowns and all of that other stuff, you're in charge, right? And I mean, the people who are protesting for Jordan Peterson won't be, but it's a great question and probably one that's crossed their minds. And it is really interesting. Jordan Peterson was silent when they came for the doctors, but spoke up when they came for him. So, and he's hoping that there's going to be enough people to stand up for him now that he's decided to stand up. It's a great question.
Well,
very compelling.
not even that he's decided to stand up. It's now that he's being targeted, and now there's consequences for his political views.
You're right.
And the difference is, it's this weird sort of timing thing that always works out in such a way where the establishment kind of gets away with it. When people started to talk about vitamin D and staying healthy back in 2020, these people were totally destroyed if they ever had any sort of popularity or gained any amount of virality or clout, because the establishment was like, don't talk about health, don't talk about vitamin D, don't talk about any of these treatments, like you're a conspiracy theorist. And then what do we have like a week ago? Washington Post or somebody is like, oh, a new study finds that, being healthy can help you deal with COVID-19. Shocker. And it's like, it's so really egregious how the news landscape or journalists will take 9 to 18 months to actually tell a story and then completely destroy anybody who was talking about it before. And I think when it comes to the Peterson thing, it's like, he's like, yes, he was only talking about his political views. He wasn't talking about things having to do with restrictions and the virus, but it's still the same thing of people who were talking about the virus before and who were talking about restrictions before. It's the exact same principle. And Jordan Peterson's a principled person. It's the exact same principle that your political views people were getting their lives destroyed. They were getting their licenses taken away.
Yeah.
So it's like
Dr. Phillips. I interviewed Dr. Patrick Phillips in 2020.
Great
and
guy.
He was speaking out. Yeah, really great guy. And I interviewed him multiple times, and he lost his Twitter account. He lost his license to practice in Ontario because of all this. And he doesn't have the millions of dollars that Dr. Peterson's got. So yeah, man, it's one of those things where it's jaw dropping what's happened. And you want to imagine, well, we can talk about this. We didn't talk about this in the green room, but did you hear about the woman who died in Nova Scotia on New Year's Eve?
No. Did I?
She fell off. Huh?
No, yeah, I don't think I did. Did I?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's a tragic story, but she fell off a horse, I guess, and had been suffering since falling off the horse for a while, like for months, I guess. And then she felt sick on New Year's Day, to the point of needing to go to the hospital. She got taken to the hospital and she died in the emergency room because they couldn't assess her properly and blah, 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 blah. And it's just a tragic story when, we're talking about, on one side, neutering the doctor's ability to speak out when they see something crazy. And on the other side, our completely collapsing healthcare system. I don't know how people can look at the country and say, that Justin Trudeau's doing a great job, or, that Doug Ford's doing a great job, or I want Andrea Horwath to take over. Like, none of those things are true. I want all of them to be up at facing consequences for the damage they've caused with their lockdown policies and the rest. And to really get to the bottom of the nonsense we've been fed for the last at least 20 years, probably more.
Yeah. And I think it comes down to, you said that, you can't imagine how people could look at this country and think and think Justin Trudeau's doing a good job. They're not looking at the country, right? They're looking at their screens, which are feeding them a very specific perspective on reality that is highly curated, highly doctored, highly propagandized. And it really is I don't know what other word to use than, evil. Like it's like malfeasance. There's a lot of words for it, but it's like, it's really grossly unacceptable. And it's damaging, like everything that they're talking about as well. And I've been doing research on this recently, like the Canadian Heritage Foundation or what have you, or the ministry or whatever. They're talking about misinformation and hate and all these things that the Canadian public or like far right people are pushing. And it's like, no, you are the people who are guilty of all of this. Like the government is complicit in the spreading of so much misinformation and so much hatred, like the dismissiveness, the dehumanization. I was like tweeting out today a comic from last year. I think it was published a year ago tomorrow. Yeah, it's from D. Adder, Michael D. Adder,
Okay.
and it's an image of Aaron O'Toole, and he is saying we need to be accommodating for the unvaccinated. And he's like, it's like a little Aaron O'Toole sitting there. And then there's a massive hand like this flicking him like a little bug. And it
Hmm.
says public opinion on this, on the collar of the hand. So
Oh, like
flicking away this person like a little bug who's saying that we should stand up for the unvaccinated. The
yeah.
implication of that is basically like the unvaccinated are scum that should not be accommodated.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, and they articulated that very clearly. Like people would say that you do not have a right to be served in this restaurant. Your choice to not get vaccinated has a consequence, and that consequence is you can't come in here. And that's not the Canada that I grew up in. If you didn't want to get vaccinated for anything, you're not a danger to other people. Now, like if you have measles, you probably shouldn't come to school if you're actively sick with measles. But if you're not vaccinated against measles, you should still be able to attend school if you want to, or be able to go to public places. I had somebody try to tell me that if you are unvaccinated, your breath is similar to secondhand smoke. If you're in a restaurant and you exhale secondhand smoke.
And I believe that idea was first popularized by none other than Gerald Butts.
Yeah.
He did it in a tweet.
Yeah.
If you want to see where the Canadian news media is going, you can usually look at Gerald Butt's Twitter's account, and he's usually workshopping very passive aggressive techniques like that, where it's like, oh, no. I'm not saying unvaccinated people are less than, or I don't want to segregate anybody, but we should really treat unvaccinated people like us, like not smokers versus non-smoking. I'm increasingly of the belief, and it's like, this guy is not a doctor. There's no sort of science around this whatsoever. We have a propagandist. We have a war room liberal party guy who is obsessed with acquiring power, dictating what the science is going to be. It's like the world we live in is totally totally wild. It's totally
round the
wild.
bend, buddy. It's so crazy. You can't even make this up. I wouldn't even believe it. It's so round the bend. But the propaganda is non-stop, never ending, and they don't let up. And
it's only going to get more chaotic as well. And that's why you were saying earlier, you're like, there's so much stuff to keep up with. And it's like, I wanted to say, like, is keeping up with it even a good idea? Like it's
no, it's true. I more talk about trying to report it, like trying to talk about trying to encapsulate it and talk about it intelligently with people, because like they get away with things.
I think what you should do, right? Instead of going over the articles, I think you should just like do a show where you just like and just like bang on the table and like scream for a couple minutes. I think that kind of better conveys
the panic,
what's going on.
Did you see? Just somebody sent me day one as a girl, and it's this really bushy bearded guy, and he's like, day one as a girl, and he's got like a bow in his hair, but he's taking the piss out of it, right? He's like, what does it mean to be a girl? We all have, bulges and beards and blah, 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 blah. But he did 4 videos, and it was planned. Like he had a thing to say. And the third one of the video, he's probably done more, but up to this point, he's done this many, had Matt Walsh in the background. And like, so he's doing his, day 4 is a girl shtick, and Matt Walsh is there, and Walsh doesn't say anything. And the end of the video is the guy saying, your silence is violence. And he runs away. Like, you're not saying anything to me in response to me is violence. So I just think that, did you see any of this or no? Like you haven't seen this?
I know what it's spoofing. I know the original material it's spoofing.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen the spoof of it though.
Okay.
That you're talking about.
I think it's one of those, not a canary in the coal mine necessarily, but it's just an indication of how completely round the bend bonkers the world. Like, cause this is a guy who's, in his 40s, probably. He's probably got better things to do, but he's on YouTube putting out video. And I mean, maybe he doesn't have better things to do. Maybe he's making quite a good living, and this is how he does it. But there's enough interest in this shtick to take the piss out of this idea that men can just be women, and women have beards, and women have bulges, and whatever. There's enough interest, but I think it's an indication of how crazy society's gotten, that people are they're looking for sense where absolutely 0 cents is allowed, right? The society itself is saying you have to believe whatever the government tells you. And if you don't, there's something wrong with you because you don't believe society. But people are looking for sense. And the product being put out there to make sense of all this is the guy taking the piss out of that whole day one as a girl thing. And that's just bonkers to me. Like we have to find our way out of this.
There's a lot of layers to it. You're right. And it really, it's not, on one hand, it's really simple. And on the other hand, it's very complex. And
you'd think it's super simple. I agree.
No, well, the beauty in somebody like that, who's doing the comedy, or even someone like yourself, who does the reporting, is you can simplify something that appears to be complex or is complex.
Yep.
And that is great because it gives people more peace of mind. It reminds people of, okay, I'm not crazy. These are my values. This is, what is happening is not normal. Yeah. And that's very important, just to allow people to keep their sanity and to cherish it. And I think that it's difficult. It's never ending, but it's also very necessary to slowly but surely unweave the many lies and kind of slowly kind of pick apart the web and slowly kind of like show people, take it apart and be like, okay, this is the truth. This is the false. This is, this is what's going on.
That's going to be so difficult because people don't want to hear it. They like, I
don't think that's true. I think there's a lot of people who don't want to hear it, but like, and this is why the Conservative Party upsets me so much. They're trying to reach the people who don't want to hear it. They're like, no, we need to cater to the people who don't want to hear it. You mean the people who were ready to throw me in jail last year? That's who you're trying to cater to. You don't want to speak up for the unvaccinated. Yeah. You want to try to pander to the people who hate the unvaccinated. Okay. Interesting strategy. Very interesting strategy. But I really would not let the zombies get you down, because the zombies, of course they do have consequence, but the zombies will wake up when they wake up. It's never going to there's no point in trying to wake up a zombie or letting a zombie kind of unless they're a family member, which is another story entirely.
Right. Difficult.
I know a good brain surgeon actually who's been doing great work on my family. I'm kidding. That's a weird. I don't know.
Is that a euphemism?
I don't even know what that was.
I mean, I wish that there were some way to see, but that's what I mean. When I say people don't want to hear it, it's they don't want to be told what's true. They want to be given the tools to discern for themselves what's true. And it's very, very difficult to do that, because even if you give somebody a good tool to do that with, which is critical thinking, right? The powers that be have done a good job at undermining that. Even if you come out the other side and you look at something and you say, the conclusion that I can come to logically with everything that I can throw at this is X, they'll say, you think X? You idiot. And then they'll have 10 people like the laughing emoji. And you're like, what the fuck? What the hell is wrong with these people? And then it's like, there's an experiment done, and I got to go get my kids soon, so apologies. But there's an experiment done where this guy, you are recruited, let's just say the ubiquitous the subject is recruited, and he comes into a room, it's a waiting room, and there's 4 or 5 other people. And then all the people are brought into the next room. And in the next room, you're shown a page with lines differing in length. And you're supposed to choose the longest line, and everybody chooses the wrong one. And you sit there, and then it's your turn. Right. And then you have to choose a line that's the longest line. And something like 70% of the time, you choose the wrong one that everybody else chooses. And you don't realize that you're the subject. People love to be going along with the group. And even if you can see that line is obviously longer, right? And it's funny because the 30%, there's videos of that. And the people who are like, the hell's wrong with you people? Like that one.
But the difference is that, on another psychological test, which probably hasn't even been done before because it has to do with like existence itself, what's going on here with the person who's making a video making fun of these trans people or whatever, day one of girlhood. The reason that I started making content, and I can't speak for you, I can't speak for others, but I am sure that there's other people who feel the same way. It comes down to this sort of thinking ahead, thinking of your existence, thinking of the future, thinking of what you want for the future, and looking at the political landscape, and then something happening where it's like, if nobody starts to resist what's going on, then the entire future period is going to be messed up. You know, like something clicks in their head where it's like, oh, so if somebody like me doesn't stand up to try and like at least help in some way to call out the nonsense here, no one else will. And then the insanity and chaos will only continue. Oh, I see. Like this train is off the rails. And unless someone like me kind of stands up and starts to do something about it, no one else will. Oh, I see. Like, you know, life is not even going to be worth living if we don't do something about this.
But
And
the
like,
thing is,
yeah,
the people who stand up, like look at Byron Bridle, right? And so, like, I agree with you.
Who's that?
Byron Bridle is the guy who talked about the Japanese studies that said he's the professor of virology at the University of Guelph, and he said this Japanese data says very clearly that the spike protein goes all over the body, and we're telling people that it stays in the arm, but it doesn't do that. It goes all over the body, and he got his entire career just well, I don't know about his entire career, but he's suing the university and all sorts of stuff. It like I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying.
Okay, yeah, keep going.
No. I'm just I agree with you that
Do you wish Byron Bridle wouldn't have said anything?
No, but I bet he does.
How do you know that? Have you asked him?
He's suing the university. I haven't asked him personally. No. Nope,
well, then you shouldn't assume that. Because on the contrary, he might be thinking the complete opposite. I wish I would have said something sooner. Because
well, he said something as soon as he could. He was a very early. It was 2020 still when he was saying, or 2020. It was right when it was right away.
Right when the vax was dropping.
Yeah, he was like, "There's a problem here," but the reason I say that is not baseless. The reason I say that is because he's the language used in his court filing is very clear about the consequences being very drastic and very dire, and he uses very defeated sounding language. So I don't mean to assume, which I did assume, but it's not baseless. But you're right, I don't know. But what I'm saying is, being somebody who speaks out can sometimes have a cost, and people who look at that, who get motivated to do that, it may not be just their decision. They may be the breadwinner. They may be the person who pays the mortgage. They may be the person who pays for everything. And if they lose their job, then, you know, big changes for the family. And that's going to influence people. It will. There's no two ways about it, right?
Of course.
So it's a crazy, unfortunate trapping of our modern life, but it is what it is. That's the reality of it right now.
I feel like you always try to end the show on a downer.
I don't. I really don't.
Guys, write in the comments.
I get every time.
Hey, man,
every time people are like, "Greg's right,
worse.
Mark's wrong." Get hopeful,
things are
man.
getting worse, man. The globalists are coming for us, and there's
100%.
absolutely no hope. Like that's the vibe that I get.
I've got a cricket farm started. Get Mark's cricket farm.
Raise your vibration, man. Raise the vibration. All this fear stuff, I can't stand it.
It's not fear.
Mark.
No, it's not fear. It's not fear. I want to be as prepared.
But you're focusing on the scarcity. You're focusing on the kind of the negative going on, because, you know, on the contrary, we are living by standing up, by standing up and fighting, you know, and fighting the evil. We are living. We are giving our life a purpose that is so profound that, you know, these zombies will never even come close to really feeling alive. Like
I'll definitely have a screenshot in like a history book. There'll be like a screenshot of me sitting in the corner with my show.
But think about it, Mark.
Like,
think about it.
Dissidents. Like,
but think about it. You know, like there's a lot to be said about, you know, life is suffering. You know, in the Bible, they talk about, you know, bearing your cross and really kind of enduring hardships throughout life. That really gives life meaning. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. It's like the comfort. People are seeking comfort. And that's part of the problem. The comfort and security, this obsession, this sort of hyper focus and desperation for more comfort and security is part of the problem, right? And that's why people are always doing the same thing, Oh, well, I better do this. You know, Jessica, for example, this poor woman who, you know, had a medical episode on live CTV news. You know, she was probably thinking the same thing. Well, I can't speak for her, but in this scenario, I'm not saying this happened, but maybe if what happened to her had to do with the medical procedure she had to do to keep her job, you know, why was she doing that? She was doing that because she's like, well, I got to stay safe. I got to stay secure.
Maybe.
Whereas part of the solution is jumping out of our comfort zone and just knowing that God will win. Okay. Knowing that God will win, knowing we're doing it for the right reasons, which is for the love of humanity and for goodness. Okay.
Yes.
We're not going to end it on a downer. Okay. So
We're not going to hope.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, Greg, but
hope and change. Yes, we can.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. That's enough of us. Where can they find it?
Just Google Greg Wycliffe. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Instagram. I'm going to finish a video doing research on the combating hate survey, which is totally interesting. But you can check that on my YouTube channel, Greg Wycliffe.
This is how to get a survey to get the answer you want, 101.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you can find me at CanadaPoly.com. And I don't know if you can Google me. You can probably Google me. Don't look for me anywhere else because I probably won't show up. I'm just kidding. That's not negative, is it? No, you can find me at CanadaPoly.com. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Bye.
Have a great day. Bye. See you next time.